Hey there folks, how you doing today? Hope all is going well for you. Believe me when I tell you this is not the first time I've tried to do this. Please bear with any background racket, me yammering about stuff unrelated to what we're trying to talk to. In the interest of brevity, I will try to keep this really short. I appreciate your time and I thank you for watching the video. Also, be sure if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to like, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell over in the corner for notifications, and stay tuned as we are attempting to put out some content as often as possible. As many of you are aware, we have the project rifle, the Alaskan 243, that we've been working on for a while now. In our last video, part number 5, we took it to the range with some factory Hornady American Hunter 100 grain bullets, and we got some mediocre accuracy for a scoped rifle at 100 yards. For those of you that saw that video, you will remember that I blamed the scope and its fuzzy crosshairs for much of that, but I can't rule out the fact that it could have been the ammunition also. So in pursuit of accuracy and sub-minute of angle performance out of that rifle, I decided to hand load some 100 grain bullets. After doing a little research and checking the inventory in my own powder stash, because as we that reload are aware, powder's not as prevalent as it used to be on the store shelves, I determined that 4350 was probably the powder I should go with for this application. Without getting too deep into the weeds with it, this is 4350, IMR 4350. This is 4350, H4350. There are those among you that will say it's not the same powder. I'll tell you, it's not the same powder. However, if you look here at the burn rate chart in the 48th edition Lyman book, which I've had laying around for about 20 years, you will see that they are right next to each other on the burn rate chart. They are both single-based extruded powders. I have been using both of them interchangeably with the same load data for many years, and I'm still here. Now that being said, this was a brand new can of IMR 4350 that I purchased at the Powder Horn many years ago in San Antonio, Texas. That store's not with us anymore. And while that's sad, it's not relevant. These two cans of H4350 were something that I inherited from somebody who no longer needed them. We'll leave it at that. So once I decided that that would be the powder that I would use to work up the hand load, I went out to the barn to retrieve the powder so that we could get started loading. So I went out there and I took this jar down off the shelf, and I noticed that it wasn't very full. So I went ahead and grabbed the jar that was next to it, and I noticed that it really wasn't very full. So I brought them in the house, I opened them up, and this is what I found. Okay, so you can see with the jar there that I have the light shining down in, as opposed to this one, those aren't the same powder. Going back once again to my Lyman reloading manual that I've had just about as long as I've been reloading. This one was published in 2002, and I bought that book new to replace the old book that I had been given back when I first started reloading. So I've had that book for about 20 years. Now, referencing that book, it will show you that there are a few different types of powders. You have single base powders, double base powders, you have wafer powders, you have ball powders, and then you have extruded powders, which are kind of a tubular shape. Tubular. Okay, enough of that. So I've been using 4350 long enough to know that it is a rather large grained, extruded, tubular shaped powder. So when I looked into the first jar and I saw little tiny, I put up a picture here to show you the two different powders. You can see obviously they're not the same. I went ahead and cracked open that new jar of IMR 4350 and I put some out for comparison next to what I believed to be the H4350, and you'll see that they are virtually identical in appearance. And I do believe that that is the proper powder for that canister. So I said all of that to say this. Couple of safety things here, folks. Do not store powder in containers that it was not originally intended to be stored in. Okay? This whole mess could have been avoided if whoever put this powder in this jar would have paid attention to what they were doing. Now, it could be that two old men drinking coffee together got to discussing a new powder, which, again, by the looks of this one, it's a more modern powder. It's a appears to be double based. It's a super shortcut. And I think probably what happened was it probably came down to two old men talking. One of them said, man, I'd sure like to try that. And the other one said, well, here, let me give you a little bit of it. And it wound up in the wrong container. Now, where that is really dangerous is if you've got the wrong powder or the wrong load data, you could end up damaging a rifle, blowing yourself up, losing digits. I mean, there's all kinds of bad things that could happen. So if you don't take anything else away from this, please pay attention to the be careful and make sure you know what you're shooting bit. So now getting back to the two different jars of powder, since we have two powders, and I'm pretty darn sure I know which one's the right one, we have this other one here that I really have no idea of knowing what it is, and there's not enough of it there to research to really try to figure out what it is. There's really only one thing that I can think of to do with it. Be sure you put on your safety squints for this. So as you can see there, it does appear to be a very slow burning powder. So I hope you enjoyed that. Take care, be safe, God bless. He said tubular.